Hey, almost done. You're two presentations away from being done from cocktail hour. So I'll try and make this quick. My name is Corey Elliott. I'm Vice President of Research at Burrell Associates. If you don't know what Burrell is, we are a research company that caters to local media companies. That's our #1 client. We go in and show them where ad spend is going in their market, where it is, where it's going to go. We project forward, project down to a county level. We have 3 buckets. We look at advertising, marketing, or advertising, promotions, and digital services. But today we're talking about politics. So this desk, strap in, because there's a lot of numbers in here and a lot of charts, and we're going to go fast. I only got 30 minutes and I got about 30 slides. So we're going to go very fast, but it's going to give you a sense of where we see things so you can take that knowledge back with you. Okay, these are the 3 things we're going to cover. We're going to cover the headlines as we see it. We're going to cover the methodology of how we got there. That's important because there's even more data in there that you'll want to understand. And then opportunities as it relates to local media companies. I figured you'd want to know what we're telling local media companies are their opportunities. You could reflect on that and where you fit into that scope. So this is based, like I said, we usually do advertising for retail. Political is its own animal. That's why you're sitting in this room. Has its own trends, its own different flavor of absolutely everything. The data here, every year we put out a political report. The data in here is from this political report that we're going to update at the end of February once we get some caucuses, once we get some more knowledge, and we'll probably update some of the numbers. And you'll see exactly one particular number, especially based on what I heard today, we are definitely going to update. But let's start with the headlines. Let's start with the big things that we see. #1, we're going to start with the quiz. Yay, quiz. Okay. So between July 4th, 2015 and the election in 2016, how much money do you think is going to be spent on political ads? And I'm talking from everything from president down to the local city council. Everything along that spectrum and every media out there. Okay? So I'll give you a hint. It starts with a B. Oh man, who said that? Okay, yeah, very good. He jumped right to it, 16.4 billion. The 3.3 billion up here is what's going to be spent just for the presidential contest. The 5.8 is what we see is being spent in broadcast TV in 2016, and that 9.4 was what was spent in 2012. 9.4, 16.4, so you see the big jump we have here, and we're going to get into exactly what that is. Okay, here it is, cut to the chase. This is just 2016, before we were talking about 15 and 16. This is just 2016. Obviously, the big media share winner here is, say it with me, broadcast TV. It's still #1. It's still going to get the lion's share of ad dollars in 2016. I know we're all digital marketers, but that's where it is. And that's where it's going to be. However, we're going to keep our eye, I've got a little laser pointer. Probably can't see that back there, but we're going to keep our eye on that little column right there, this online digital, which is creeping up fast. You're going to see how it develops and why it develops. All right, let's move on, if I can. Here's, what I wanted to say about this was, even though TV's #1, online's #3. If I go backwards, can I go backwards? Online's #3, right behind cable. They're kind of neck and neck right now. But we see online just over that 1 billion mark coming up, and a lot of that, we see a lot of campaigns already going digitally. You guys know that, I don't have to tell you that. But what I find interesting is even the most, on the presidential front, even the campaigns that are probably farthest ahead or perceived by everybody as being farthest ahead in digital, still are spending on that broadcast TV. That was my introduction. This is some information from a group called Smart Media Group up there in the left-hand corner. What they do is track all of the FCC filings of radio, TV ad spend by candidates. Compile all that stuff, since they have to record it anyway, they have to put it on record, they compile it and put it together. Check this out. This is in November and December of 2015. I'll cut to the chase and tell you #3 spender in these 3 states, old Bernie Sanders. Outspent Hillary, outspent Christie. He was #3. A guy that traditionally one would think is on the forefront of digital. He's spending a heck of a lot in TV. So let's stop for a minute. In 2016, this is just contests, has nothing to do with money. These are just contests out there in 2016. 75% of all of the contests out there are at the local, state level, state or local level. Very few at the national level. So the majority is local. If you look at that pie in a little bit different way, if you just divide it up between local and national, you get this. Red is local, again, just number of contests. And that blue is national, local, national. And we cut the definition of local at governor and below. Got to cut it somewhere, so we put it there. Okay? Do you think that is how it washes out with ad spending? Heck no. It looks like this. National is driving 55, 56% of all of the ad dollars out there in 2016. But then again, that's nothing to sneeze at, that red section. That's all local. And between 15 and 16, that's about $8 billion sitting right there. Okay, one of the things that makes this unique to think about is, you guys know, obviously, political cycle happens in a 4-year cycle. And we can't look at things year over year. We have to look at it every 4 years. So the first year we're considering local, the second year we're considering off-year congressional, third year local and government, that's fourth year's presidential year. So we have to look at all of year 4 against each other. Now what's making this tricky this year, and so here we're sitting at 2016, what's making it tricky this year is so much is starting to bleed over into 2015. That makes my job and our job at Borrell a little bit more difficult because we used to be able to go year to year. We're going to have to back up now and combine a little bit of 15 into 16, and we're going to see that trend. We feel we're going to see that trend just continue, that blurring of years going forward. So when we look at national contests, remember, above the governor level, we see $2.3 billion being spent total in advertising in 2015. In 2016, we think it's going to be $6.1 billion. So that means 3 out of every $4 that are going to be spent on a national level are going to be spent in 2016. Not only that, it's going to be spent in the last part of the year. So this is kind of a weird graph, but what it's telling you is what percentage of national spend is being spent by what month. So in other words, by June, 30% of those dollars you just saw have been spent. Meanwhile, by October, 92% of all those dollars have been spent. So the most activity, obviously, between August and October. It's just ramping up right now. Another quiz time. Yay, quizzes. Okay. Political ad dollars by election day. So what media will capture 60% of all national political ad dollars? You know what the answer is. TV, that's right. So 64% are going to broadcast TV. Next up, online digital at about 8%, cable at 9%. This is creeping up now, more so than anywhere else. Newspapers, which you think would be higher? No, they're our local play, and you're going to see that here in a minute. So here's what's going to be spent 2015 to 16 on electing the next president. We think about $3.3 billion are going to be flowing, oopsie doodles, into electing the next president. The Senate's a little less. We don't have that many senators. We have a heck of a lot more House seats that are going to be spending. And special interests. This is a lot of PAC money over here, and well, there's some over here. But all the special interests are over here. We're trying to divide them out. So what about local, though? Remember, we talk to a lot of local media, local newspapers, local radio stations, local TV. What are we telling them and what are we looking at? Just as a reminder, these are what we're considering local contests. So that pie looks a little bit different when you get to the local level. Broadcast TV shrinks a little bit, still number 1. But this is a place where they're trying to engage the local community. So they're turning to, and even though it's not big compared to the 39% here, but the newspapers have crept up to about 11%. They're paying people to man phones and get their message out. Cable's up at 11%. Online digital isn't as robust because the lower you go, the less they know what to do with and can buy it. Or they can buy it, but they don't. That's what I should say. Okay, so, and it looks a little different race by race. So the governor, you can imagine, will spend a lot more on broadcast TV. Over here on this side, if you look at just ballot issues and where the money is spent advertising or putting a case forward against ballot issues, it's got to be in places where they can tell the story a lot more. Newspapers, buying spots on radio, sponsoring things on radio, getting a message out through telemarketing, as opposed to the governor race who just wants to see his or her big mug on the screen. Again, another thing that should be noted, and you guys probably already know this, but the political ad spectrum and this media mix looks completely different than retail. In a lot of retail categories, online's already half of the spend. It's already half. Here, political is lagging behind, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. Not the least of which it's this weird 4-year cycle where it's hard to build momentum when you're going every 4 years. That, and look at the people in charge. Just saying. That wasn't a political joke, but I mean, you got a bunch of old white guys, and a lot of them like to see their mugs on TV, still think that's the way to go. You guys know that. That's what you're battling every day, I imagine. On the local level, this is what it looks like when we compare 2015 to 16. There is less bleed. You know, we talked about that bleed from 15 into 16. Less with the local because A, they don't have the money, and B, they don't need to. So we do see a big jump up here to, if you can't make it out, again, you can get this deck and look at the numbers a little bit closer. 1.6, 1.6, 1.6, all down here in 2016 on a local level. So let's talk about methodology. The reason we're going to do this is because it's going to go even deeper into the numbers. Okay, there's a lot of ways that people forecast or companies forecast ad spend or anything to do with politics and spending. One is spending per media choice. So how much is newspapers going to get, how much are online digital plays going to get, how much are direct mail going to get. Spending per candidate, how much is each candidate going to spend, and spending per eligible voter. This is a series, some of the sources we use to help us forecast, to help us look into the future, look backwards to, and look into the future. Some of them are free, you can go and get them and look at them yourself. Some you can't, you have to pay for. But regardless, after you look at all of that and put it all together, all three of these things must agree once you start building this database up. And we like to concentrate on this spending by eligible voter because that gets to the most micro level, right? And it can teach us a lot about what's going on at the local level so we can go to our clients and talk to them. I thought you guys might be interested in this. This is what the trended spend per eligible voter looks like between 1995 and 2014. That little up and down reflects exactly what's going on every year in politics. So there's a 4-year cycle that continues again and again. But the overall trend line, as you can see, is going way, way up. And we see that, we're going to see that continue here into the future. But it's different. It's different depending on where you are. Here are 3 states. On the right is Louisiana, on the left is New York. In the middle is? Nope. Nope. North Dakota, ladies and gentlemen, that's your geography lesson for today. That's North Dakota there in the center. But it's a little bit different state to state with different levels of spending. These are in millions of dollars. So New York's over here sitting for 2016 at $658 million. Meanwhile, North Dakota at 30, and you got Louisiana in there in between at 105. Now, different things are happening. North Dakota has a governor race, these other 2 do not. And it causes the spending per eligible voter to be different. And it just so happens that the spending in North Dakota is a lot higher. Why would that be? We just got done saying there isn't much there. Well, there isn't much there. There's only about 573,000 eligible voters. So that impacts the per eligible voter spend that we work with. But that isn't the only thing that affects it. The number of contests, we talked about governor versus non-governor. There are different congressional seats that are up. Hot or cold contests, that's a big one that we've seen historically drive a lot of revenue. If there are 2 people going at it, that's great for advertising. Ballot issues are also very good. Keep this in mind. Anything that the ATF would be interested in is hot ballot issues that get a lot of money. So anything to do with, medical marijuana or firearms, anything like that, always there's a lot of money that gets poured into states that have those ballot issues. This is another cut from Smart Media Group, how it even changes within a state now, the spending. This happens to be TV, radio, and cable spending for the big candidates here in December of 2015. So in December of 2015, the #1 TV advertiser, this isn't necessarily overall advertiser, but the #1 TV advertiser was Mr. Rubio, followed by Jeb, then Bernie, there's Bernie again, Hillary, Ben, Ted, and way down here, Mike Huckabee, who looks like he spends most of his time on radio anyway and not TV. Boop. It also is different city to city too. So if we look at Des Moines and Springfield, these are just random cities, about the same size, kind of close to each other, middle America. Now strap in because this next chart has a lot of numbers in it. But like I said, you'll get this. Just stick with me. Okay, this is looking at Des Moines. Down the side are different media. Okay, get that? Yeah, I got that. Great. Up across the top are the different races. So this is what we project in Des Moines for these different media in these different races and what's going to be spent. Now, what you'll see, and I'm going to make you sick because I'm going to flip back and forth, okay? Here's Springfield, right? Same setup, but just Springfield. What you'll see, flipping back, is a lot more money being spent on the national contests in Des Moines than on the local contests. So you got 31% of all the money that's being spent is being spent on the US presidential race in Des Moines. 23% once you get to Springfield of all the money that's being spent. They're concentrating more, or the local is garnering a lot more ad dollars here in Springfield than Des Moines. Makes perfect sense. So, what are the opportunities that we tell local media that they can do with this information? Great, I have all this, there's a lot of money. What do I do with it? Here's what we tell them to do. We say, first of all, look at local. Now remember, we're walking into the Des Moines, well, Des Moines Register is probably a bad example, but we're walking into newspaper companies, radio stations, things like that. So the national is the national. Look at the local. Look at what's going on at the local level, because between 2015 and 16, that's still $8 billion out there. This is a chart that shows the spend on state and local contests, governor and below, different media, and what percentage of their overall, what they're getting from political overall, is coming from local. So, if you remember those pie charts from a long time ago, we know that 72% of what newspapers are going to get on average from political is going to be from the local level. As opposed to, jump down here, online and digital, only 40% will be from the local level. Now, everybody in this room can see that as a different kind of opportunity. When we do forecasts, I like to tell people who aren't familiar with Borrell or what we do, is that we're looking at, we're basically the ghost of Christmas future, right? So we're saying, based on everything we have, based on the history, and based on the algorithms we have going forward, this is what it looks like it's going to happen. So, can you go out there and change that? Sure you could. There are many things that could change this. But, given all the best information we have, this is what it looks like. So look beyond TV and look beyond 2016. So remember, broadcast TV still #1, right? Well, what's going to happen in 4 years? Let's take a look. Warning, next slide, a lot of numbers. Okay, rub your eyes, here we go. This one's set up a little different. Stay with me, I'll talk you through it. Okay, it's the media down the side, the left-hand side. Across the top, you have different years, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Okay? Great. And the money associated in political ad spend for every one of those years. I'm going to point out just a couple things. Oh, I should have done that. That would have been nice, huh? 2017 through 2020, the actual percent change of money between 16 and 20, and the share point shift between 16 and 20. Okay, now here we go. Let's look at our good friends Broadcast TV. Still number one. Guess what? In 2020, they are still number one. However, they have now dropped a 37% share. They're well under the 50% mark. They've dropped. They've in fact lost 13.8 points of share. Okay? And everybody sitting in this room knows why and where that's going. The other two that were kind of interesting before I get to the one you're all curious about, cable and radio we see going up too because they're getting their act together, a little better targeting and things they can do with online audio and things like that. But we see a little bit of change, but remember it's a smaller base. You know, you're only talking about 8.8% of the overall revenue and 10.5%. But I'd be remiss without saying something about it. But here, let's jump to online digital. And as a side note, before I go any further, what we consider to be online digital is probably pretty important to understand. We have 6 big buckets under online digital, okay? Online video, online audio, email, search, targeted display, and ROS, or just run-a-site banners. Those are the 6 biggies that fall into this online digital. We don't care who does it. In other words, if a newspaper puts an ad online, it's in our online number. It's not in our newspaper number. So we're media pure in that way, or you know, is it media pure? I guess you could say media pure. We don't care about that. We look at it from the buyer's point of view. Okay, anyway, so that was a little side note. Online digital, up 204% between 16 and 20. Huge growth. Fueled by mobile, fueled by video, fueled by the chance for these pundits to get their message out, to engage conversations. Everything I heard everybody talking about here, you all are right. And the exciting thing is, this is the perfect time. This is a beautiful blend as politics, or the political as the political environment wakes up to what can be done digitally. They're behind retail, they're behind everything else. And this is a beautiful marriage of knowing what to do with it, because we've all had our ups and downs on the retail side, to know what we can do in the political realm. They're going to gravitate to it. It's a beautiful combination. It's set to blow up. And garnering 26% of the overall spend in 2020. So 1 out of every $4 in 2020 we feel is going to be spent on digital. It looks like this when you graph it out. This silly curve, right? Where all of a sudden it takes off. That's because, again, it's already so behind. It's catching up. Digital is catching up in the world of politics. Or at least digital spend, I should say, is catching up. When you layer on the broadcast TV line on top of that, that is what it looks like. As you can see, absolutely catching up. We do see a giant fall for broadcast TV and political ad dollars from 2016 to 2017. Somebody talked about the complete saturation, people fed up with it. We think that's going to play out in 2017, so God bless the people who are trying to look for a re-election in 2017. They shouldn't turn to TV. It's going to be hard. And this was just me being funny, or attempting to, but you're a rough crowd. Look toward programmable, social, elastic, meaning everything you guys are talking about. Mobile, video, social, native, it's all going there. This is a chart about what we see being, and this is the one that I think when we do our update, we're going to change. There's one that I'm already looking at that I think needs to change. And it's our 2020 forecast of what we think, where we see political ad spend happening. And I want to direct your attention down here to social media sites and mobile devices. Okay? These are two mutually exclusive things because you guys know they can overlap, right? So they're two different things. We say 64% of the political ad spend is going to be directed somehow towards social media sites, and about 48% to mobile devices. That's the number I think is going to go up. It's already going up. It's going up faster than we thought. So I think this, I don't know what it will be yet, but when we do our March update, watch that number, that will go up. Sorry. I know I'm engaging, so. Programmatic, also, we see, you guys know this, we see a lot of articles about programmatic ad buying, programmatic video buying when it relates to political, and we think that's going to go up as well. We think in 2016, this was a little dicey to try and get to because of the debates about how to classify programmatic and all of this were a challenge. But this is what we estimate right now is being spent programmatically. When you get this chart and pore over it, what it's showing you is the amount we project that's going to be spent, not spent already, it's going to be spent. The share, so this all adds up to 100, right? So out of everything programmatic, 38% US president. You get how that column works? This column is how much of the digital buy is programmatic. So we're estimating by the end, by the time we're all done with everything, 47% of what's being spent digitally for the US presidential race will be programmatic. So here are a couple updates. We're only 2 slides away from being done. Oh, okay. We're only 2 slides away from being done. These are just a couple of things that we're looking at for our update. We're just beginning to cook right now in January. It's happening, it's picking up pretty fast. It's interesting to watch the ground game, what's going on. Especially a good example is Bush and Trump. What was it, how many debates ago that Jeb said he's going to do something unique, he's going to advertise. The next thing he did was pull off his money and put it into ground troops. Meanwhile, you got Trump saying he's going to advertise. Rubio, you saw that bought a lot of TV time. We see, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but what we've picked up is, seem to have gone negative quite early. That usually generates a lot. If somebody goes negative, somebody else wants to go negative. It's a whole dirty cycle that happens that generates ad revenue. And we got our first major endorsement, didn't we? Sort of. Whatever you want to call that. But that's what it was. And that's significant because as endorsements come in, so does ad money. Okay, last slide. So here's what you need to know, and you guys know this, but a lot of this is validating for you, I hope. Digital is rising very fast. It's going to hit $1 billion by the end of the year. It isn't here now. End of the year it will be. TV is still #1, probably still going to be #1 in 2020. But that mass, and you guys were just talking about, it's being replaced by targeted or an intelligent balance thereof. By 2020, digital competes with TV. It's getting 1 out of every $4. Remember, there's $8 billion still sitting in local campaigns. You just have to know what market is hot and what are not if you have the ability to go to any market you want to. And that's a little examination of the races, the ballot issues, the things that are in there. The media companies that are in there that they can spend on. So those are important factors to look at. And I'm embarrassed because I went 2 minutes over time, but that's it. I'm done. You okay?
Thank you, Corey. Does anybody have any quick questions for Corey on that? Yep.
I'll get a copy of this one.
Yes, we're going to post it online later this afternoon. So go back to our agenda and click on Corey's session, and you'll see the link to download it. Go ahead.
I was just curious about the methodology, and you talked about carving up digital. ROS was in there, seemed a little out of place, but just curious about that because you could do RON, ROS is sort of like a way you can set up a flighting, so versus platform or type of execution. So curious about that. And then the second one, and I'll stop there, is what was defined as programmatic? Did that include email and social and native? So just curious about what was in those two pieces.
Excellent questions. The first question was about how do we divide things up. This was borrowed, one of the sources we use is our advertising database that we have. And we look at that, and here's a dirty little secret, don't tell anyone this, is back in the day it was great because we had these nice 6 buckets and they were pretty damn even. When paid search, 5 years ago paid search was great and everybody had banners and there was something about targeting and well now it's all targeting. Damn near everything is targeting. So in our definitions, the way we broke that out, mobile would be what? Targeting. Social, well, most, I am generalizing. Social would be targeting. Anything that can go to one person and not another falls into our targeted bucket. So our targeted bucket is huge right now. So this year, I swear to God, we're going to start to break that out. And so anyone who's familiar with Borel, instead of seeing one giant targeted display number, you're going to see other numbers. The challenge is, it's that Venn diagram. They're all overlapping each other. Social can be mobile, usually is, but social are distinct from mobile. You can't add the two together. You kind of have to do the Venn diagram thing. The second question was about...
Defining programmatic.
What's...
Oh, yeah, no, it is all those things you were talking about. We had a great discussion about that. You should have seen the whiteboards. About what's programmatic, and to us it was anything that fit that definition. So you guys were talking about the human versus machine up here. So anything that was placed programmatically is the best word I can think of now, because my brain's fried, but was in that bucket. So yeah, it crossed email, it crossed display, it crossed video, it crossed all those things.
Corey Elliott, thank you very much.
All right.
Great. And we're going to say, let me ask Nick